I'm never going to sell my single share. Price has gone up. He's giving me something that he would give to his family. And there are a lot of fake ones. I love Korea, and Korean people want the facts.
국내의 한 대형 서점에서는 다른 어떤 섹션보다 심리 분야를 크게 표시합니다. 성공의 본질은 결국 인간이라는 요소를 넘어서지 못하기 때문인데요. 한국인들에게 가장 크게 사랑을 받아온 로버트 치알디니의 설득의 심리학이 사실 과학적인 연구 결과를 바탕으로 한 더 잘 파는 법에 관한 마케팅 책인 것 알고 계셨습니까? 저자가 디지털 시대가 도래하기 전부터 더 잘 파는 법에 관해 연구한 결과를 바탕으로 쓴 책입니다. 책의 원제목도 influence, 영향력이죠. 설득의 심리학 개정판은 전작에 비해 300페이지가 더 많아졌습니다. With the rise of the social media and the internet, how can individuals and organizations best navigate the new challenges and opportunities of influencing and persuading others online? I know we already shared it within the 7 principles, but I think you have something more to say about this specific question.
It turns out that somebody did a research study of 6,700 online commercial sites. And they did A/B tests, and they had 29 different factors. Some were economic, like offering free shipping. Others were technological, like there was a search function within the site. Others were kind of sales related. Was there a call to action line in the material? And the ones at the top were the 7 principles of influence. The ones that were most likely to convert visitors they would be people who gave free samples or free opportunities or information, or had authority testimonials in there, or had evidence of multiple others that were choosing their products or service and talking about their most popular features or model. Those were the things that were at the top. Now, here was the one that I thought was most interesting to me because I wouldn't have expected it. How does the liking principle work online? You've never met those people. You're not interacting with those people, right? It turned out if the landing page of the site had a welcoming statement at the beginning, welcoming visitors onto the site, the way you would welcome them into your brick and mortar store or even into your home, right? And people felt approved and they liked the brand for welcoming them. That produced a significant conversion from visitor to purchaser. So it's possible to use these principles even online. Oh, and by the way, the one at the top, the one at the very top that beat scarcity. Scarcity, a limited number of opportunities or a limited set of available choices. That was the one that was most powerful.
So how can we apply the principles of persuasion to improve our own decision-making skills?
So I'll give you another personal example.
Yes.
And it has to do with the liking principle and the desire to help those and benefit those that we like. And it also involves the unity principle in the sense, when I was writing the new edition of Influence, I wanted it to be the best possible revision I could write. And how did I motivate myself to do this? To stay in my chair, to keep working and searching the internet for the very best example and the very best research study and so on. And here's what I did. I dedicated the book to my grandchildren. I have 3 grandchildren, and I listed their names and I said, this book is dedicated to Haley, to Dawson, and to Leah. I gave a copy of the book to their parents, and I said, when they are old enough to read this book, I want you to give each one the copy of the book. Well, it better be a good book. That's my family. My grandchildren are going to say, this is for me. And when they read it, I want them to feel proud of it. So that's what I arranged for myself, for example. The liking principle and the unity principle working together.
There's a similar example. He's an online person, and then I think he's in his 70s or something. He wrote the entire blog to help his own daughter to be financially free and wise. So he wrote all the principles. You should put your money in the Vanguard, stuff like that.
Yeah, because I'll tell you something. Speaking of financial expert, Warren Buffett wrote in his letter to shareholders something that was very compelling to me. I read this, and he was talking about the future of Berkshire Hathaway, the company he owns, on the 50th anniversary of that. And he said, into the future, here's what I would say to my family if they were asking me about Berkshire's future. And he then went and specified all the reasons why that stock will be powerful into the future. And that made me say, he's giving me something that he would give to his family? I'm going to believe this guy. Let me tell you, when that was written, a single share of Berkshire Hathaway stock was worth $150,000 a share. There's never been anything like it in our financial world. Today, this morning, that single share is worth $500,000. So he was right. And I was right to say to myself, I'm never going to sell my single share because the price has gone up.
So according to your book, you kindly also suggested people that there's a way grammatically to understand which one is the fake testimonials and which ones are not. Using only the verbs, you might think of it as like fabricated information or testimonials, but you might want to take a look at the nouns that they use.
Yes, when they speak about the product in terms of the features of it, so nouns, that's an indication that they've actually used it, as opposed to verbs that say, this is what it's supposed to do. Also, if they speak about its features rather than their reactions to it, again, that's about the product. And there are a lot of fake ones because people really recognize how powerful social proof is. If a lot of people are giving something 5 stars, oh, that tells me that it's good. Now, here's the interesting thing about fake reviews. Researchers found that there's a optimal number of stars that cause visitors to a website to convert to purchasers. It's not 5 stars because they don't believe that it would get 5 stars from everybody. So the optimal range is between 4.3 stars and 4.7 stars. That's where people say, okay, I'm going to move. Below 4.3, you say, well, maybe that's not so good. After 4.7, you say, this may not be legitimate. There are people who are faking these reviews.
커피 가게는 원가가 얼마인지 알면서도 직원의 태도, 말투, 제스처 등을 통해 매장 특유의 분위기를 만들어 손님에게 비싼 가격의 커피가 정당하다는 메시지를 전달하여 설득합니다. 명품도 마찬가지죠. 하지만 비싸게 구는 방법이 나머지 설득의 원칙을 압도할 정도로 강력한 것은 아닙니다. So, what do you think is the key differences between the genuine influence and manipulation?
I'll give you a personal example. I went into a shop and I wasn't looking for a TV, a new TV, but I saw a big screen TV on sale at a very good price, and I knew it was highly rated by the experts. And so I was standing in front of it and there were some brochures I was reading, and a salesman came up to me and he said, well, I see you're interested in this TV set at this price. I can see why. It's a great deal, but I have to tell you, it's our last one. And I just got a call from a woman who said she might come by today to buy it. So I knew these were both scarcity tricks, right? I don't know if they were tricks. The key was it true? Now, I'm supposed to be the doctor of influence, 20 minutes later, I was wheeling out of the shop with that TV set in my cart because I'm as human as anybody. Scarcity is an important motivator of behavior. Now, here's the question. Was it really the last one? If it was, he did me a favor. Because if he hadn't told me it was the last one, and I went home to think about it, and then I came back the next day to buy that, and it was gone, and the guy said, oh yeah, that was our last one, I would have said, what? You didn't tell me there was the last one? You didn't tell, what's wrong with you, man? Right? I needed that information if it was true. But if it wasn't true, if it was a trick, just to get me to buy it, and then there were plenty more in the back room, and he would go and get the next one and put it in the shelf and use that same strategy. So I went back the next day to see if the space was empty or he had put another set there, the same model. It was empty. He was honest with me. He gave me a piece of information I needed to know in order to make a good choice, a judgment there. And so I went back to my office and I wrote a very positive review online of that salesperson and that shop. If there had been one there, I would have felt manipulated. I think it's important that we penalize people who manipulate these principles dishonestly. And we have to reward those people who use those principles honestly and inform us about our choices. So I think that's the difference between ethically acceptable and ethically objectionable uses of the principle.
1984년도에 나온 설득의 심리학 책에는 인간을 설득하는 6가지 법칙에 대한 연구 결과가 정리되어 있습니다. 하지만 2021년 개정판에서 제7법칙을 추가했는데요.
It happened to me a few years ago. I was writing a grant proposal for funding for my research. It needed to be submitted the next day. And I was reading one last time through it, and I realized there was one section that was not convincing, that I didn't have the research to really support what I was claiming in that section. But I knew that a colleague of mine in my psychology department, let's call him Tim, not his real name, had done a study the year before, and he had collected that would validate my ideas. So I wrote to him an email and I said, Tim, I'm going to call you because I need the data that you collected last year for a grant proposal that's due tomorrow. I need it today, and I'm going to ask about how we can make that transfer to me. Tim was not known as a nice man in my university. He was a sour man. He was always complaining and he was always criticizing people. He wasn't a nice man. So I called him and he said, hello, Bob, I know why you're calling. And the answer is no. Look, you have this thing due tomorrow. I'm a busy man and I can't be responsible for your poor time management skills, Bob. That's on you. I'm sorry, the answer is no. I can't do that. I can't go into my archives, get the data out and transform them into a way to send to you so you can use them. That's asking too much for me to do today. And before I read the research on unity, I would have said, oh, come on, Tim. I really need this. I have this due tomorrow. Well, he had already said no to that. So here's what I said. Tim, we've been in the same psychology department now for 12 years. I really need this. And I had the data that afternoon. He sent me the data that afternoon. It can be in a business, it can be in a family, it can be in a relationship. Bring the relationship to the top of consciousness, because people say yes to those that they feel that they share the concept of we. If that exists, bring it to consciousness and you'll be more successful in your requests. So that's the seventh principle. I love Korea. And as a matter of fact, there are two countries outside of the United States where my book has sold better than the neighboring countries. South Korea is number one, and then Poland. Why? Because, and I've spoken in Korea, in Seoul, and the reason I think that's the case is that Korean people want the facts. They want the facts. They don't want stories. They don't want spectacle. They want the facts so that they can decide, well, I have research that's facts. And so I think that's the reason.